The math that wouldn't change. Harold Whitman wrote, "Ask Megan," on the top line of the notebook. The words sat there in blue ink, too large for the page. He stared at them, while the refrigerator clicked on behind him and the old kitchen light hummed over the table. Then he took the pen and dragged a line through the words. Once. Twice. The paper dented. He kept going until the letters disappeared under a dark, angry patch of ink. The pen point caught. The page tore with a small, dry sound. Harold stopped. For a moment, he only looked at the hole he had made. Then he turned the page carefully, as if the notebook had done something rude. Harold Whitman was 70 years old, a widower in Cleveland, living alone in the apartment he had once shared with his wife. His Social Security check came once a month and left almost as quickly. His daughter, Megan, called often, and Harold had learned how to sound all right in 3 sentences or less. This month was different. The rent and prescription refill had landed together, and for the first time, the math did not merely hurt, it refused to work. He pulled the rent reminder closer. It had come folded into thirds, tucked into the metal clip beside his apartment door sometime after breakfast. The leasing office used polite language now. Friendly reminder. Upcoming balance. Please remit payment by the 1st to avoid late fees. Harold hated that word, remit. He wrote the first number on the clean page. A rent of $900. His handwriting was steady when he wrote numbers. Always had been. At work, years ago, he could label pipes, valves, parts, measurements, anything, even with the cold hands. Numbers were simple as long as nobody asked what they meant. He looked at the bank receipt beside the notebook. His Social Security deposit had posted that morning. He wrote the deposit amount at the top, then sat back. The kitchen chair gave a faint wooden crack under him. He had meant to tighten it months ago, maybe longer. There was a coffee ring on the table near his left elbow, brown at the edge, from a mug he had stopped using after the handle chipped. He wrote the next line. The medicine was $600. He did not like the question mark. It looked childish. He scratched it into a firmer dot and then wished he had not. The pharmacy had said around $600 the last time he asked. Like around made it softer. Around $600 if the refill came before the plan covered the next part. Around $600 if the discount card did not change. Around $600 unless something went through different this time. Things did not go through different for men like Harold. He opened the cabinet above the sink and took down the orange bottles one by one. The first bottle had 4 pills left. The second had 6. The third made a thin rattling sound when he shook it. Not enough to be useful, too much to throw away. He set them in a row beside the notebook, labels facing him. His wife, Donna, used to line spices that way. Alphabetical for 2 months, then by how often she used them, then by what she called common sense, which meant Harold could never find the paprika. He looked toward the counter where her recipe tin still sat. Pale yellow. Flowers on the lid, a little rust at one corner. He turned back to the notebook. Electric, what do you three? He checked the bill again. Gas on farm. The apartment was never warm enough in February and somehow still cost money to keep from becoming a freezer. April had helped, but not enough. Cleveland took its time letting go of cold. Line phone to 52. He paused at that one. Megan had told him last year she could put him on her plan. It would be cheaper, Dad. It's not a big thing. He had said no before she finished the sentence. He wrote it anyway. Groceries 160. Then he crossed out 160 and wrote 120. He could do 120. Beans, eggs, oatmeal, bread, coffee if it was on sale. Chicken thighs maybe once. Bananas. He did not need much. He looked at the pill bottles. A bust of 35. He crossed out 35 and wrote 25 in. He could walk more. His knee gave a small ache as if answering him. Harold pressed the heel of his hand against it, irritated. Not pain exactly, a reminder. His body had become full of reminders, each one asking for money. Laundry on teen. Then after a moment, Megan birthday? He stared at that line. Her birthday was not until next month. He had already bought the card, a simple one with blue flowers, because Donna had always said you did not wait until the week of somebody's birthday to remember they existed. He had not bought a gift. He crossed out the line. Not this month. He added the numbers slowly. Then he added them again. The second total was the same as the first. He looked at the deposit amount. He looked at the total. The rent and medicine alone swallowed nearly everything. The rest of life stood around the edges, hands out. Harold took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. One of the nose pads had yellowed. He had meant to replace them too. The phone rang in the living room. He did not move. On the second ring, he put his glasses back on and looked through the doorway. The phone sat on the arm of his recliner, face up, buzzing against the worn fabric. Megan's name lit the screen. Harold stayed at the table. The third ring sounded louder in the apartment than it should have. He could picture her standing in the billing office parking lot on her lunch break or sitting in her car with one hand on the steering wheel, calling because she had 5 minutes and guilt had filled 3 of them. He pushed the notebook an inch away from him. The phone kept ringing. He could answer, say hello, let her ask how he was. Fine. That was easy. Then she would hear something. Megan heard small things. A pause, a cough. The way he said nothing much when there was too much nothing. Then she would ask again, and he would have to work harder. The call stopped. The apartment settled. Harold waited, still watching the phone. A few seconds later, it chimed. Voicemail. He got up too fast and had to put one hand on the table. The pill bottles jumped slightly when his fingers hit the wood. He stood there until the dizziness passed, annoyed with himself for needing the pause. Damn it, he muttered. His voice sounded old in the kitchen. He walked into the living room and picked up the phone. The room was dim, even though it was afternoon. The blinds were half closed, the way Donna used to leave them to keep the furniture from fading. The furniture had faded anyway. Megan's voicemail waited on the screen. He tapped it. Hi, Dad, just checking in. Her voice came through bright but tired around the edges. I'm between things, so I might miss you if you call back. No emergency, just wanted to see how your appointment went and if you picked up your refill yet. Call me later, okay? There was a small pause, not long. And eat something besides toast. The message ended. Harold kept the phone in his hand. He had not told her about the refill cost. He had not told her the appointment had turned into another bill in the mail and a nurse saying someone would call him about coverage. He had told her the doctor was keeping an eye on things, which was true in the way a closed door was still part of a room. He set the phone back on the recliner. Then he picked it up again and opened the call screen. Megan's number was right there. He could press it. He could say the number once. Plainly, 600. He could tell her he was short. Not forever, just this month. He could say he hated asking, and she would say, Dad, in that worn-out way. And then she would help because she was his daughter, and because she would be angry if he did not let her. That was the problem. She would help. And after that, something would be different. He put the phone down. In the kitchen, the notebook waited with the rent reminder and the pill bottles. Harold returned to the chair and sat carefully this time. He wrote another column. And pay rent first, pick a partial, ask pharmacy. He underlined partial. Maybe they could split it. Maybe he could get a week's worth. Maybe there was some form, some delay, some way for the medicine to be less itself. He knew better than to trust maybe, but he wrote it down because empty paper was worse. The pen hovered above the next line. He wrote, ask, then stopped. His hand closed around the pen until the plastic edges pressed into his fingers. He finished the word anyway. Ask Megan. Smaller this time. The words looked worse, smaller, sneakier, like something he had tried to hide from himself. He saw Megan at 9 years old, standing on a kitchen chair in the old house, insisting she could help him paint the back hallway. A stripe of white primer across her cheek. Donna laughing from the doorway. Megan saying, I'm helping, Dad. Like helping was a badge, not a burden. He had let her hold the roller for 2 minutes, then taken it back before she dripped paint on the trim. That was what fathers did. They took the weight before it fell. Harold scratched out the words. The pen tore through the page again, wider this time, ripping into the sheet beneath. He stopped only when the blue ink had become a hard, dark wound across the paper. His breathing was louder than before. He tore the page out, not cleanly. A strip stayed caught in the spiral. He pulled it free and folded the page once, then again. The torn place showed at the edge. He looked around the kitchen, suddenly unsure where to put it. Trash was too obvious. The notebook itself was worse. His eyes went to Donna's recipe tin. No, he said, though nobody had suggested it. The apartment gave him no answer. He stood and took the tin from the counter. It was lighter than he expected. Inside were index cards in Donna's slanted handwriting. Meatloaf, lemon bars, chicken noodle soup. A casserole Megan used to hate, and then asked for after college as if she had always loved it. Harold slipped the folded page underneath the cards. He closed the lid. For a second, his hand rested on top of the painted flowers. Then he pushed the tin to the back of the counter, behind the sugar bowl and the old toaster that browned one side darker than the other. The pill bottles remained lined up on the table. The rent reminder lay beside them, clean and polite. Harold picked up the notebook again, turned to a fresh page, and wrote only one line. Pharmacy tomorrow. Put the rest back. Harold Whitman kept his Medicare card between 2 fingers before he reached the counter, like having it ready might make the price behave. There were 3 people ahead of him. A woman in purple scrubs picked up one small white bag, tapped her phone against the payment pad, and left without putting her purse down. A man in a Browns cap gave his last name, joked with the clerk about the weather, and was gone in under a minute. Then a mother with a toddler on her hip signed for antibiotics, while the child dragged one shoe along the floor and made a soft squeak, squeak, squeak against the tile. Harold stood behind the blue line and tried not to look like a man rehearsing. If it was high, he would ask calmly. If there was a mistake, he would give them time to fix it. If there was no mistake, he would not make trouble. He had seen old men make trouble at counters before, loud, confused, holding up the line, while everyone pretended not to listen. He would not be one of them. The pharmacy smelled like floor cleaner and paper bags. Behind the counter, shelves of filled prescriptions sat in narrow bins with alphabet labels. A phone rang. A printer chattered. Someone in the back said, "I'm checking on that now," in the flat, careful voice of a person who had already said it too many times today. Next, Harold stepped forward. The clerk behind the register was a young woman with tired eyes and a name tag that had turned sideways on her scrub top. She gave him a quick smile that did not have time to become warm. "Picking up?" "Yes." He slid his card forward, then his ID. "Whitman, Harold." She typed. "Date of birth?" "June 12th, 1955. She looked at the screen, then turned to the bins behind her. "I've got a few for you." A few. That was what the bottles had become when they belonged to the system. A few. Not the 4 pills left on his shelf. Not the way his doctor had frowned at the chart. Not the little paper Megan had once taped to his fridge with morning and evening written in blue marker. The clerk came back with a white pharmacy bag, then another. The second one was larger. Harold watched her scan each label. Beep, beep, beep. The sound seemed too bright. She paused at the register. Her eyes moved over the screen. Harold straightened his shoulders. "Okay," she said. "Your total today is $587.40. The number did not land all at once. It came apart. 587. 40 cents, as if the cents had any right to exist after the rest of it. Harold looked at the little display facing him. 587.40. He heard the toddler behind him say, "Mommy, I want gum." The mother whispered, "Not now." Harold pushed his Medicare card closer. "Did that go through the insurance?" The clerk glanced down. "Yes, sir. This is after insurance." "Can you run it again?" She did not sigh. He noticed that and disliked himself for noticing. "Sure," she said. She typed something, scanned one of the labels again. The register beeped. She looked toward the back. "Hey, Sam, can you check this one for me?" A man in a white coat came from the filling station, holding a clipboard against his side. Mid-40s maybe, dark hair going thin at the front. Polite face worn down by fluorescent light. "What's going on?" "Mr. Whitman is asking if insurance went through." The pharmacist looked at the screen. "Let me take a look." Harold kept his hands on the counter. There was a small plastic sign beside the card reader about vaccines. Flu, shingles, pneumonia. On the other side, a display of reading glasses leaned crookedly in their slots. The pharmacist typed for longer than the clerk had. Harold felt the line behind him grow, not by sound, but by pressure. Someone shifted. The toddler squeaked one shoe again. "Okay," the pharmacist said, still looking at the screen. "So these were billed through your Medicare Part D plan. The cost is applying correctly. Looks like one of them is hitting at a higher tier, and one may be affected by your coverage stage." "My what?" "Coverage stage, the plan structure." The pharmacist looked up then, and his expression changed slightly. Not pity, something more practiced than that. "Unfortunately, the total is coming back as $587.40. Harold nodded once, though nothing had been answered in a language he could use. "So that's the price." "That's the price today." "Yes, today. Like tomorrow might put on a better shirt and come back kinder." Harold looked at the bags. "What if I don't take all of them?" The clerk's hands went still. The pharmacist said, "I can tell you what each medication is, but I can't advise you to skip anything your doctor prescribed. I'm not asking you to advise." Harold heard the edge in his own voice and lowered it. "I'm asking which one is the important one. They're all prescribed for a reason." "That's not what I asked." A silence opened, small and public. The pharmacist glanced at the line behind Harold. "Mr. Whitman, I understand this is a lot. What I can do is call your doctor and ask if there are lower-cost alternatives or if they want to adjust anything." "No." The answer came too fast. The pharmacist paused. "It might help." "No, that's all right. We can also see whether there's a manufacturer coupon. But with Medicare, those usually..." "No." Harold picked up his card, then realized he still needed it and set it down again. "Don't call anybody." The pharmacist studied him for a second. "Not long enough to be rude." "Long enough." Harold looked away first. On the counter, the white bags had his name stapled to them. Whitman, Harold. Printed cleanly. Anyone close enough could read it. The woman behind him shifted her child to the other hip. Harold pointed at the larger bag. "What's in that one?" The pharmacist checked the label. That has 2 of them. How much? He tapped the keyboard. Together, those are 392 and some change. And the other? The clerk answered softly, 195 even. Harold let out a short breath through his nose. It almost became a laugh, but there was no humor in it, so he stopped. 392, 195. Put together, they became impossible. Apart, they became choices pretending to be options. I'll take the 195. The pharmacist did not move right away. Mr. Whitman. I'll take that one. I really think we should contact your doctor before you leave without... No. This time his voice was quieter, which made it worse. The pharmacist's mouth closed. Harold could feel the heat climbing into his face. He took out his wallet, opened it, and removed his debit card. His fingers were clumsy with the slot, the old leather sticking where the plastic sleeve had cracked. The clerk reached for the smaller bag. What should we do with the others? She asked. Put the rest back. She nodded, but she did not look at him when she did it. The pharmacist took the larger bag and set it aside, not back in the bins yet, just away from Harold's reach. The clerk scanned the remaining prescription again. The register gave its clean little beep. 195. Harold inserted his card. The machine asked him questions he resented. Debit or credit, cash back. Confirm amount. He pressed the button slowly, careful not to hit the wrong one. The approval took 2 seconds too long. Approved. The clerk stapled the receipt to the bag and slid it toward him. Do you have any questions for the pharmacist? He almost looked at the man in the white coat. No. The clerk nodded. Okay, take care. It was something people said because the register had finished its part. Harold put the small bag under his arm and stepped away from the counter. He did not look at the line. He did not look toward the larger bag. He walked past the greeting cards, past the blood pressure machine, past a shelf of cough drops on sale 2 for $6. At the automatic doors, he stopped because they did not open right away. For one stupid second, he thought even the door wanted proof. Then it slid apart and cold air came in from the parking lot. Outside, the sky was the color of dirty dishwater. A bus hissed at the stop across the street, kneeling toward the curb for an old woman with a cart. Harold stood near the entrance and put the pharmacy bag inside his jacket, as if rain might ruin what little he had managed to buy. The walk home took longer than it should have. He did not feel sick. That was the thing. His body still carried him down the sidewalk, past the check-cashing place, past the closed barbershop with paper over half the window, past the church sign missing 2 letters. A person could be in trouble and still look ordinary from across the street. By the time he reached his building, the plastic handles of the pharmacy bag had left red marks on his fingers. Inside his apartment, the quiet met him too quickly. He locked the door, checked it once, then set the bag on the kitchen table. The notebook was still there from the night before. So were the old bottles, lined up like they had been waiting to see what he brought back. Harold took off his jacket and hung it on the chair instead of the hook. He opened the pharmacy bag. 1 bottle, a folded medication guide, a receipt long enough to be insulting. He placed the new bottle beside the old ones. It made the row look wrong, not incomplete exactly, accusing if bottles could accuse. He picked up the receipt and looked at the bottom. 195 on it. He folded it once and put it under the bottle. The phone sat on the counter near Donna's recipe tin. No new calls, no new message from Megan. Harold imagined the question she would ask later because she would ask it. Did you pick up your medicine? He could say yes. There was a bottle on the table, a bag from the pharmacy, a receipt. Enough pieces to build a lie if nobody counted. He lined the bottles up again, labels facing forward. The new one looked too small beside the empty spaces where the others should have been. Harold stood over them for a while, then reached for the pharmacy bag and shook it once, lightly, as if something else might still be inside. The plastic gave a thin, useless sound. He folded the bag flat and placed it in the trash beneath yesterday's coffee grounds, then closed the lid carefully, paid in full. The rent drop box had a slot just wide enough for an envelope, and no wider. Harold stood in front of it with the money order in his hand, waiting though there was no line, no clerk, no person behind the glass asking him to hurry. The leasing office did not open for another 20 minutes. Inside, through the locked door, he could see the fake plant by the window and the bulletin board with its printed rules. Rent is due on the 1st. Late fees begin after 5 p.m. Under that, another notice reminded residents not to leave trash bags in the hall. Harold had read both notices before. He read them again now because looking at paper was easier than looking at his own hand. The money order said $900. He had checked it 3 times at the grocery store counter while the cashier waited with her marker in hand. Now the envelope was sealed, his apartment number written in the corner. His name printed block by block the way he had written work orders for 30 years. He lifted the envelope to the slot. Stopped. A woman from the second floor came through the lobby carrying a laundry basket against her hip. She gave him a quick nod. "Morning." "Morning," Harold said. She pushed the outside door open with her elbow and went out into the gray light. Harold waited until the door clicked shut. Then he slid the envelope into the box. It dropped with a flat little slap. For a second, relief came so cleanly it almost embarrassed him. The rent was paid. The apartment was still his. The kitchen table, the worn recliner, Donna's recipe tin, the bedroom where her side of the closet still held 2 winter coats he had not touched. None of it belonged to a notice on the door. Not this month. He stood there longer than he needed to. Then the leasing office printer started up somewhere behind the glass, and the ordinary sound broke the spell. Harold stepped back from the drop box. On the way out, he noticed a stack of blank maintenance request forms on a small table. One pen chained to a clipboard. He had fixed dripping faucets and loose hinges in buildings like this long before anyone called him Sir because of his age. Now he was a tenant waiting for permission to matter. He went home by the stairs instead of the elevator because the elevator had been making a grinding noise again. 2 flights up, he stopped on the landing and rested one hand on the railing. The metal felt cold. "Just stairs," he muttered. No one answered. Inside his apartment, he locked the door and kept his hand on the knob until the bolt settled. The rent receipt came later by email, but Harold did not like trusting things he could not hold. He opened the leasing portal on his phone, squinting at the screen, tapping carefully with one finger. It took him 2 tries to remember the password. The first failed attempt made him angry enough to set the phone down. After a minute, he picked it back up. The portal showed his account balance. Paid in full. He looked at it for a long time. Then he took a screenshot by accident while trying to zoom in. The phone made a camera click that startled him in the quiet kitchen. "Fine," he said. He sent the receipt to the small printer Megan had bought him 2 Christmases ago, after he complained that everything was online now. The printer lived on the bottom shelf of a side table and worked when it felt like it. It coughed, blinked, pulled the paper in crooked, then produced a page with the leasing office logo at the top and the words he wanted. Payment received. Harold took the page before the ink had fully dried. He placed it on the refrigerator under the magnet from Niagara Falls, the one Donna had bought on a bus trip with her sister. The paper slid sideways. He straightened it. There. For the first time in days, the apartment looked almost defended. He stood in the kitchen with his coat still on, looking at the receipt as if it might disappear if he turned away. Then the pill bottles on the table caught his eye. 3 old ones, 1 new one. The relief thinned. Harold took off his coat and hung it over the back of the chair. He sat down slowly. The new bottle had yesterday's pharmacy label wrapped around it, white and clean. The old bottles had scuffed labels, corners softened from being handled too much. He opened the notebook to a fresh page. At the top, he wrote, "The Mills." Then he stopped. That looked too simple, too careless. He scratched it out and wrote him, "Schedule." Better. A schedule was responsible, and a schedule meant a man was managing things. He lined up the bottles in front of him. Morning, evening, with food. Do not skip doses. Take as directed. Call your doctor if... He turned that bottle so the warning faced away. The pill cutter was in the junk drawer. Underneath rubber bands, a screwdriver, batteries that might or might not work, and a pack of birthday candles left from Megan's 40th. The plastic hinge squeaked when he opened it. He set one pill in the little V-shaped holder. The blade came down with a sharp snap. One half stayed in place. The other jumped onto the table and landed near the rent receipt from the pharmacy. Harold picked it up with the tip of his finger and placed it in a saucer. He cut another. The halves were not even. One piece had crumbled at the edge. He stared at the dust on the table. "Close enough," he said. His voice had no confidence in it. He wrote carefully in the notebook. "A morning, half. A night and half if needed." He looked at the words, "if needed." Of course it was needed. The doctor had not prescribed medicine for decoration. He crossed out "if needed" and wrote, "A night and a skip every other day." Then he crossed that out too. The page began to look like something made by a person he would not trust. He turned to another clean page. This time, he drew a small calendar. Boxes for the days. He numbered them slowly, keeping the lines straight. When his hand shook, he stopped and flexed his fingers. No drama, no panic, just a month that needed handling. He marked the days when he would take the new prescription, then the old remaining pills, then a gap he did not label. The phone rang. Harold looked toward the counter. Megan's name was on the screen. He did not answer on the first ring, or the second. On the third, he picked up. because not answering twice in 2 days would become its own problem. "Hey," he said, already standing though there was nowhere to go. "Hi, Dad." Megan sounded like she had the phone tucked between her cheek and shoulder. There was office noise behind her, a printer or copier, someone laughing too loudly in the distance. "You busy?" "No, just making coffee." It was nearly 2 in the afternoon. He had no coffee in the pot. "Oh," a pause. "Regular coffee or the kind you make and forget to drink?" He looked at the empty sink. "The second kind." That got a small laugh from her, tired but real. He moved the notebook partly under the pharmacy flyer with the back of his hand. "I was calling because you never called me back yesterday," she said. "I listened to your message." "That is not the same thing." "Since when?" "Since phones were invented." He glanced at the bottles. The new one sat with its cap off. "I'm fine," he said. "I didn't ask that yet." "You were getting there." Another pause. This one had more in it. "How is the pharmacy?" Megan asked. Harold turned away from the table and faced the refrigerator. The rent receipt was crooked again. The bottom corner lifted slightly in the weak breeze from the heat vent. "Fine." "Did they have everything ready?" "Yes." He heard her breathing shift. She knew that voice. He should have changed it sooner. "And the cost?" she asked. "About what they said." "Dad?" "What?" "About what they said means what?" He pressed his thumb against the edge of the counter. There was a nick in the laminate, shaped like a small white comma. It was handled. "I know you hate when I ask, but was it bad?" "No worse than anything else." "That is not an answer." "It is the answer I have." The line went quiet except for the office noise on her end. Someone said Megan's name, muffled, and she said, "1 second," away from the phone. Harold looked back at the table. The cut pill sat in the saucer, one half larger than the other. Megan came back. "Sorry, listen, did you pick up your medication?" "Yes." "All of them?" The apartment seemed to tighten around that question. Harold stared at the bottles that proved otherwise. 3 old, 1 new. Gaps where the rest should have been. A receipt hidden under the bottle like a bad card in a losing hand. "Yes," he said. The word came out plain, almost calm. Megan did not answer right away. He kept his eyes on the bottles. "Okay," she said at last, but it was not really okay. It was a word placed carefully on top of doubt. "Good. Don't start worrying over nothing." "I'm not starting. I've been doing it for years." Despite himself, he almost smiled. Then she said, "Are you taking them the way the doctor said?" His hand moved before he could stop it. He closed the cap on the new bottle and tightened it until it clicked. "Yes, Dad." "Megan, I'm allowed to ask. And I'm allowed to answer." "That's not what you're doing." He looked at the rent receipt on the refrigerator. "Payment received." Black letters, neat and official. "I paid the rent this morning," he said. The words surprised him. They came out firmer than anything else. "Oh," Megan said. "Good. It's good." "Yes. I didn't mean..." "I know what you meant." "I don't think you do." He waited. She softened her voice, which made him want to get off the phone. "I just want to make sure you're not cutting corners somewhere else." Harold picked up the pharmacy receipt and folded it smaller. Once, twice. "I'm 70 years old," he said. "I know how to pay bills." "That's not what I said." "It's what everybody means eventually." There it was, too much. He knew it by the way Megan went silent. He placed the folded receipt in his shirt pocket. "I have to go," she said, but gently now. "I've got someone waiting." "Go on then." "I'll call tonight." "No need." "I'll call tonight," she repeated. He did not answer. "Eat something," she said. "Bossy." "Yep." The call ended. Harold stood with the phone in his hand until the screen went dark. On the table, the pill schedule waited in its little boxes. He sat down and looked at it again. Morning half, night nothing, skip, stretch, make it last. Words a doctor would not have written, words Megan would not have let him keep. He put the phone face down. Then he took the rent receipt off the refrigerator, smoothed the curled corner, and taped it back with a strip of clear tape across the top. He added another strip at the bottom so it would not lift again. The page stayed flat now. Paid in full. Harold stood back. The receipt no longer looked like protection. It looked like something that had been pinned there to prove where the money went. The good daughter voice. Harold said the word fine 3 times before he called Megan. Not loudly, not like a man practicing in front of a mirror. Just enough to hear whether it still belonged to him. "I'm fine." Too flat. "I'm fine, Meg." Too soft. "I'm fine, just tired of..." Worse. He stood in the kitchen with the phone in his left hand and the pill schedule open on the table. The paper had too many marks on it now. Half doses. Skip nights. Little boxes that were supposed to look organized. The rent receipt stayed taped to the refrigerator, smooth and official, while the bottles beside the notebook looked like they had been caught doing something wrong. Harold cleared his throat. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator and a truck backing up somewhere outside, its warning beeps coming through the window in thin little bursts. He pressed Megan's name before he could rehearse again. She answered on the second ring. Dad? Hey. Hi. Her voice changed quickly, from work voice to daughter voice. You okay? There it is. What? You don't say hello anymore. You say, you okay? A small pause. Hello, Dad, are you okay? He should have laughed. He managed a short sound close enough. I'm fine. There, better. He walked away from the table so he would not keep looking at the bottles. The phone cord did not exist anymore, but he still moved like one might pull him back if he went too far. What are you doing? Megan asked. Standing in my own kitchen. Very suspicious. Making toast. You said yesterday you were making coffee. Sometimes a man has a full schedule. Toast and coffee, big day. He looked toward the counter. No bread was out, no plate. The toaster was empty. What did you need? He asked. I don't need anything. That usually means you need something. No, I wanted to check in. You checked. Dad. The good daughter voice came in then. Not angry, not yet. Careful even. It was the voice she used when she was trying not to scare him off. Harold knew it too well, and knowing it made him feel cornered. He moved into the living room and sat in the recliner. The cushion dipped under him. He had meant to replace that chair after Donna died, then had not been able to stand the idea of a new one in the same spot. How are groceries? Megan asked. He looked at the muted television screen, black and blank, reflecting a bent version of the room. Groceries are groceries. Do you have enough in the house? Yes. What do you have? What am I, taking inventory for you? I'm asking if you have food. I have food. What kind? The kind people eat. Dad. He rubbed 2 fingers over his eyebrow. Eggs, oatmeal, soup, bread. What soup? He closed his eyes for a second. Megan, I'm not trying to be annoying. Then stop practicing. That landed harder than he meant it to. On her end, office noise faded. Maybe she had stepped into the hallway. Maybe she had turned away from people so no one would hear her father talk to her like that. When she spoke again, the brightness was gone. Okay, sorry. He hated that. The apology. The way it made him the unreasonable one, which he was, and still did not give him anywhere to put it. Don't be sorry, he said. Are you taking your prescriptions with food? He looked toward the kitchen doorway. Yes. All of them? You asked me that already. I'm asking again. And I'm answering again. Okay, what did the pharmacy say about the high one? He sat up a little. What high one? The one you said was expensive. I said the total was about what they said. Right, so which one was high? The room seemed to narrow. Harold reached for the remote, then set it down without turning on the television. I don't know, Megan. They scan things. The machine gives numbers. I pay them. You didn't ask? I asked enough. Did they say anything about alternatives? No. Did you ask them to call the doctor? His mouth tightened. Why would I do that? Because sometimes they can change it, or prescribe generic, or do a prior auth. I do this kind of thing all day, Dad. I know what you do. Then let me help you figure it out. There's nothing to figure out. You don't know that. I said it's handled. That's your word when it isn't. He stood too quickly. The living room tipped slightly, not all the way, just enough that the window and wall did not agree for a second. Harold reached for the arm of the chair and missed it, then caught the side table. The lampshade trembled. Dad? I'm here. What was that? What was what? You got quiet. I stood up. Why? Because I felt like standing up. Are you dizzy? No. The word came too sharp and too fast. Megan did not respond right away. Harold kept one hand on the side table and stared at the lamp base until it steadied. Dust had gathered in the groove near the bottom. Donna would have noticed, or maybe she would not have, near the end. He did not know anymore which memories belonged to which year. Dad, Megan said, lower now. Do you have all your medication? The room had settled, but his hand stayed on the table. I told you yes. All of it, not some, not a few days' worth, all of it. He walked back toward the kitchen because standing still made him feel watched. Each step was careful, which irritated him more. You're talking to me like I'm stupid. I'm not. You think I can't pick up a prescription now? I think something is wrong. You think because you work in billing, you know everything about my life. That is not fair. No, what's not fair is being questioned in my own apartment by my own daughter. I'm on the phone. You know what I mean? I don't actually. He reached the kitchen table. The notebook was still open. He closed it with his palm. Megan said, I know you're lying, voice. The sentence came without drama. That made it worse. Harold looked at the pill bottles. 3 old, 1 new. He did not speak. On the line, Megan breathed in. Not a gasp. More like she had found a door unlocked and did not want to push it open. Dad. I don't appreciate that. I know. You don't accuse your father of lying. I'm asking you to tell me the truth. I raised you better than this. The moment he said it, the kitchen went too still. There were things a person could say that did not raise their voice and still change the air. Harold heard it after it left him. He looked at the window over the sink, at the dull afternoon light caught in the glass. Megan's voice, when it came back, was quieter. You did, she said. Well, that's why I'm asking. He pressed his lips together. She went on before he could stop her. Do you need money? No. I can send something. No. It doesn't have to be a big conversation. It already is. Dad, please. Please. Don't. Please what? Let you scare me from across town? I'm not your project. I never said you were. You talk like it. No, I talk like your daughter. That's the same thing lately. Another silence. He picked up the new bottle, then put it down. The cap clicked against the table. Megan heard it. Of course she did. What was that? She asked. Nothing. Was that a pill bottle? For God's sake. Are you cutting them? He looked at the saucer. One half pill sat there, chalky edge, showing where the blade had split it. I'm hanging up now. Dad, don't hang up. I have things to do. No, you don't. That small sentence found him cleanly. He had laundry he was delaying. Dishes in the sink, a rent receipt taped to the refrigerator like proof of competence. A phone in his hand, and a daughter who knew too much from too far away. I have plenty to do, he said. Then I'll come by. No, tonight. No, tomorrow then. Megan, listen to me. You do not need to come over here and inspect my cabinets. That is not what I'm doing. It is exactly what you're doing. I'm worried. I heard you. I don't think you did. He felt the dizziness again. Smaller this time, like a dark spot moving at the edge of his sight. He turned and leaned one hip against the counter, keeping his voice level. How's work, though? He asked. She did not take the turn. Don't do that. Do what? Disappear while I'm talking to you. I'm right here. No, you're not. He almost told her she sounded like her mother, not because it was true in that moment, but because he knew it would stop her. He swallowed the line before it became another thing he could not take back. The phone buzzed against his ear. He pulled it away and looked at the screen. Another call, the pharmacy. Megan was still talking. Just tell me what you paid, and I can call the plan. I don't need your card if you don't want... I have another call. From who? Nobody. Dad? I said I have another call. Is it the pharmacy? He did not answer fast enough. Dad, answer it. I'll call them back. Put me on hold and answer it. I know how to use a phone. Then use it. He took the phone from his ear and stared at the screen until the pharmacy call stopped. A voicemail notification appeared almost immediately. Megan said his name again, smaller now through the speaker. He put the phone back to his ear. They hung up. Call them back. I will. When? When I'm done being cross-examined. I'm not cross-examining you. You keep saying what you're not doing, and you keep not answering me. His breath came shallow for a moment. He turned on the faucet, let water run over his fingers, though he had no glass in his hand. The sound gave him somewhere to hide. I'm tired, Meg. Her voice softened at once, and he hated that too. Okay, sit down. I'm not helpless. I said sit down, not surrender. A tired little line. More Megan than argument. For 1 second, he could see her at 12, bossing him through a board game because he kept moving the wrong piece on purpose to make her laugh. He turned off the faucet. I'm going to go, he said. Tell me one thing first. No. Do you have all the medication the doctor wants you on? He looked at the closed notebook, at the rent receipt, at the pill half in the saucer. Goodbye, Megan. Dad. He ended the call. The silence after was not relief. Harold kept the phone in his hand until it buzzed again. Not a call this time. Voicemail. He opened it. The pharmacy's automated voice began too cheerfully. Hello, this is a message from your neighborhood pharmacy regarding prescriptions for Harold Whitman. We are calling because... He pressed delete. The phone asked if he was sure. He pressed delete again before the message could finish telling him what everyone seemed so determined to know. The notice after the sacrifice. The paper was folded once and clipped to his door with a strip of blue tape. Harold saw it before he touched the knob. For a moment, he stood in the hallway with his grocery bag hanging from one hand. The plastic stretched thin around a loaf of bread, a carton of eggs, and 1 can of soup he had decided he could afford. The notice moved slightly in the draft from the stairwell. He looked down the hall. No one was there. He set the grocery bag on the floor, peeled the tape from the door, and took the paper inside before reading it. Whatever it said, it did not get to say it in public. He locked the door behind him. The kitchen was dim. the rent receipt still taped flat to the refrigerator. Payment received. He looked at those words first, as if they could answer for him. Then he unfolded the notice. Under that, in smaller print, unpaid utility adjustment and processing fee. Please remit payment within 5 business days to avoid further action. Harold read it again. The words did not change. He set the paper on the table and took off his coat slowly. One sleeve caught at his wrist. He yanked too hard, and the zipper scraped the back of his hand. Processing fee, he said. The apartment gave the phrase back to him as nothing. He picked up the rent receipt from the refrigerator, pulling one corner free of the tape. The paper bent. He smoothed it against the table beside the notice. Payment received. Balance due. Both from the same office. Both printed neatly. Both acting as if they had nothing to do with each other. His phone lay on the counter where he had left it after deleting the pharmacy voicemail. There were 2 missed calls from Megan now. One text he had not opened. He did not look at it. Instead, he found the leasing office number on the notice and dialed. While the phone rang, he stood straighter. Not because anyone could see him, but because he needed his voice to know what kind of man it belonged to. Lakeview Arms Leasing Office, a woman said. This is Denise. Yes, Harold said. This is Harold Whitman in 2C. I got a notice on my door saying I owe money. Okay, let me pull up your account. Keys clicked. Harold looked at the rent receipt. I paid my rent. One moment. I have the receipt. Okay, sir, give me just a second. Sir, not rude, not kind. Just the word people used when they wanted him to wait without feeling insulted. He waited. The refrigerator clicked on. The eggs sat in the grocery bag near his feet, forgotten. The pill bottles were still lined up near the notebook, their caps closed, their labels turned halfway away as if they were trying not to be involved. Okay, Denise said. I see your rent payment posted. Then why is there a notice on my door? So the base rent was paid, yes. The remaining balance is for the utility reimbursement charge and a processing fee from last month's returned autopay. I don't use autopay. It shows here there was an attempted online payment in March that didn't complete. I paid March. Yes, I see a money order posted after that. Then it's paid. The rent was paid, the fee remains. Harold pressed his thumb against the edge of the table. Nobody told me that. It would have shown on the portal. I don't live in the portal. Denise paused. Not long. Long enough that he could hear a phone ringing somewhere behind her. I understand, she said, in a voice that meant she had been told to say it, but balances carry forward if they're not paid. I paid $900 this week. Yes, sir. So my rent is paid. Your base rent is paid? He closed his eyes. Base rent, processing fee, utility reimbursement, friendly reminder, balance due. Every phrase had a way of making itself innocent. I'm looking at a receipt that says paid in full, Harold said. What date is that receipt from? This week. For the rent payment, correct? It says paid. It may be showing the rent charge paid, not the total account balance. That's not paid in full then. It depends which screen you're viewing. Harold let out a short breath. I'm viewing the paper you people sent me. Another pause. When Denise spoke again, her voice had softened by one careful degree. Mr. Whitman, the current balance due is $146.25. If it's paid within 5 business days, there won't be any additional late charges. And if it isn't, we would send a second notice. And then, I can't speak to future action. I can only tell you what the account currently shows. He looked at the grocery bag on the floor. The bread had tipped sideways, pressed against the cabinet. I don't have that right now. The sentence left before he had time to make it smaller. Denise did not answer immediately. Harold straightened again, too late. He said, I wasn't expecting it. I understand. You can pay through the portal, bring a money order to the office, or use the Dropbox. We don't accept cash. I know how to pay. Yes, sir. The heat in his face rose fast. I paid my rent. Yes, sir, you paid part of what was owed. The words did not sound cruel. That made them harder to fight. Part. He had left medicine at the pharmacy for part. He had told Megan yes for part. He had taped proof to the refrigerator for part. Harold pulled the chair out and sat down because the kitchen had started to tilt. Not enough to fall, only enough to remind him the floor was not interested in his opinion. Denise was still talking. If you want, I can email you an account ledger. No, it would show the breakdown. I can read a notice. I'm just offering I said no. The line went quiet. He pressed his free hand against his knee until the ache there sharpened into something useful. I'll take care of it, he said. Okay, the office closes at 5, but the drop box is available after hours. I know where the box is. Is there anything else I can help you with? He looked at the rent receipt, its corner torn where he had pulled it from the refrigerator. No, thank you for calling. The The call ended before he moved the phone from his ear. For a while, Harold sat with the dead phone against his head. Then he set it on the table beside the notice. The groceries still needed putting away. Eggs in the refrigerator, bread in the drawer, soup in the cabinet. Small, normal tasks. A man could keep his apartment together by doing the next small thing. He stood, bent for the grocery bag, and had to catch the edge of the counter. Not dizzy exactly, hollow, like something inside him had stepped back. He waited until the dark at the edge of his sight thinned. Then he put the eggs away one by one, though they came in a carton and did not need to be handled. He placed the bread in the drawer. The can of soup went in the cabinet beside 3 others, all turned label out because Donna had liked cabinets to make sense when you open them. On the table, the notice waited. His phone buzzed. Megan's text lit the screen. "I'm coming by, don't argue." Harold picked up the phone and stared at it. The words were already several minutes old. He looked toward the door. No knock yet. He moved quickly then, or tried to. The rent receipt came off the table first. He pushed it toward the refrigerator, then stopped. If it was on the refrigerator, she would see it. If it was missing, she might ask. He folded it and unfolded it again, leaving a crease through the leasing office logo, the notice. He grabbed it and turned toward the trash, then pictured Megan lifting the lid for no reason except that daughters notice things. He turned back, opened the junk drawer, and shoved the notice under a stack of old batteries and takeout menus. The drawer would not close. Something caught at the back. "Come on," he muttered. He pushed harder. A screwdriver rolled forward and jammed sideways. The first knock came. Not loud. 2 firm taps. Harold froze. "Dad?" Megan's voice through the door was not the phone voice. It was closer, tired from the drive, carrying a fear she had not managed to dress up. Harold looked at the table. The pill bottles were still there. The saucer with the cut half pill was still there. The pharmacy receipt sat near the notebook, folded small but not hidden. The new bottle stood alone beside 3 old ones, the arrangement plain to anyone who knew how to count. The drawer hung open with the corner of the notice visible under a yellow flyer for a pizza place he never ordered from. Another knock. Dad opened the door. He grabbed the pharmacy receipt, then put it down because the receipt was not the problem. He took the saucer and carried it to the sink, but the half pill stuck to his fingertip when he tried to slide it off. He shook it once. It fell into the basin with a tiny sound. Too tiny. The knock came again. "Dad?" Harold turned from the sink to the table, from the table to the junk drawer, from the drawer to the door. He had paid the rent. He had put the medicine back. He had deleted the voicemail. He had answered the questions as long as answering was still possible. Now Megan stood on the other side of the door, and the apartment had become too small to hide both the notice and the bag from the pharmacy. He reached for the drawer again. It stuck halfway closed. What he chose. The drawer stuck halfway closed when Megan knocked again. Harold shoved it with his hip, but the screwdriver inside had turned sideways and caught against something. The yellow corner of the rent notice still showed under the old takeout menus. "Dad," Megan said through the door, "open it." "I'm coming." His voice sounded wrong, too sharp at the edges. He looked once more at the table. Pill bottles, notebook, folded pharmacy receipt. The saucer was gone, but the split pill had left a pale dust mark near the edge of the wood. He wiped it with his sleeve. The knock came again, harder this time. Harold went to the door and opened it with the chain still on. Megan stood in the hallway in her work pants and a navy jacket, her hair pulled back too tightly. She had not put on lipstick. That was the first thing he noticed, though he had no reason to notice it. Her eyes moved over his face, then past him into the apartment. "Take the chain off? You could have called first." "I did. I didn't say I was taking visitors." "Dad." He closed the door enough to slide the chain free, then opened it. Megan stepped inside without waiting to be invited. She smelled like cold air and car heat. Her purse hung from one shoulder, and she held her phone in her hand as if she might need it quickly. Harold shut the door behind her. For 1 second, neither of them spoke. Then Megan looked toward the kitchen. "What's that drawer doing open?" "It sticks. It didn't used to." "Things stick." She moved past him. He followed too closely. "Megan, I don't need you walking through my place like an inspector." "I'm not inspecting." "You're looking." "Yes, I'm looking." She stopped at the kitchen table. Her face changed when she saw the bottles, not dramatically. Megan had learned somewhere in adulthood how to hold herself still before bad information. Harold saw the effort of it in her jaw. Where are the rest? The rest of what? She picked up the new bottle, turned it, read the label, and set it down. Then she looked at the old ones. "Don't do that," he said. "Do what?" "Handle my things." "Where are the other prescriptions?" "In the bathroom." "No, they're not." "You don't know that." I checked your bathroom when Mom was sick. I know where you keep medicine. The mention of Donna landed between them and stayed there. Harold reached for the bottle Megan had touched and moved it an inch back toward himself. Megan's eyes went to the folded receipt. He got to it first. Give me that, she said. It's a receipt. Then give it to me. No. She stared at him, then at the junk drawer. The corner of the notice still showed. Before he could stop her, she pulled the drawer open the rest of the way. The screwdriver clattered forward. Batteries rolled against the wooden front. She lifted the notice from under the menus. Harold felt something in him go flat. Megan read it once, then again. Balance due, she said. It's a fee. A fee for what? I'm handling it. You said the rent was paid. It is. This says, I know what it says. She looked at him. And the pharmacy? He turned away. You didn't come here for rent. You came here to start the same argument in person. I came here because you deleted a pharmacy voicemail and then stopped answering me. How would you know what I deleted? Because I called the pharmacy. He went still. Megan's hand tightened around the notice. They couldn't tell me details. I know that. But they said you had prescriptions waiting. That's none of your business. It became my business when you lied to me. I didn't ask you to make it your business. You made sure not to. Her voice broke slightly on the last word. She looked angry about that too. Harold took the notice from her hand. She let it go, which somehow made him feel worse. I paid the rent, he said. I'm looking at a notice that says you still owe money. I paid $900. And the medication? He folded the notice badly, the edges uneven. I had to choose. Megan blinked once. The apartment seemed to stop making its little ordinary sounds. What does that mean? It means I paid what kept the roof over my head. And left the medicine? I picked up what I could. All of it? He did not answer. All of it? She asked again, quieter. No. Megan turned toward the counter and put one hand there. Her shoulders lifted, then dropped. Which ones? Megan. Which ones, Dad? I don't know. Names, bottles, the expensive ones. You don't know which medication you're not taking? I know enough. No, you don't. There it is. What? The way you talk to me. Good, hear it then. You don't know enough to decide this by yourself. He laughed once, hard and empty. I'm 70 years old. I decide plenty by myself. You cut pills on a kitchen table. I made a schedule. You made a lie. His face heated. Watch your mouth. No. The word hit harder than yelling would have. Harold stared at her. Megan's eyes were wet now, but she was not crying, not yet. No, I'm not 12. I'm not going to stand here and let you scare me just because you're embarrassed. I am your father. I know. Then act like it. I am. He looked at the door. For one wild second, he wanted to tell her to leave, to point down the hallway and use the voice that had once ended arguments over homework and curfews and boys with cars too loud for his liking. But she was standing in his kitchen now, between him and the table, and the old voice had nowhere to land. Megan picked up the notebook. Put that down. She opened it. Megan. Pages turned under her thumb. Grocery numbers, rent numbers, crossed out schedules, his handwriting smaller and uglier as the month went on. Then she stopped. He knew what she had found before he saw it. The torn page had not stayed hidden in Donna's recipe tin after all. At some point, he must have moved it back, or the folded scrap had slipped into the notebook when he was rearranging his damage. There it was, tucked between two pages. Blue ink scratched over so hard the paper had ripped. Megan unfolded it. Ask Megan. The words were almost gone. Almost. She stood very still. Harold reached for the chair. The room had started to lean again, slowly this time, like a boat easing away from shore. Don't, he said. Megan looked up. Her face was different now, not softer, stripped. You wrote this? He swallowed. It was nothing. You wrote my name. I crossed it out. I can see that. He tried to pull the page from her hand, but his fingers missed the edge. That small miss frightened him more than her questions. Megan saw it. Sit down. I'm fine. No, I said I'm fine. And I said no. He took one step toward the table, and the floor shifted under him. His hand caught the chair back, but the chair slid. Megan dropped the notebook and grabbed his arm. Dad, I'm all right. You're not. Give me a second. His mouth had gone dry. A cold sweat opened along his neck. The kitchen light grew too bright, then too far away. Megan lowered him into the chair more than he sat in it. Look at me. I'm looking. No, you're not. He tried to focus on her face. There were two Megans for a moment, both frightened, both too close. She pulled out her phone. No ambulance, he said. I'm calling? No, you don't get to vote right now. He grabbed weakly at her wrist. Don't make a scene. That was when she cried. Not loudly, just one sound that escaped before she turned it into action. Were you going to die in here before you asked me for help? He wanted to answer with anger, with something clean and fatherly, something that put the room back in order. Instead, he looked at the torn page on the floor. I was trying not to need you, he said. Megan stared at him. The phone was already at her ear. Yes, I need help from my father. He's 70, he's dizzy and weak. He's been missing medication. She listened, wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, and gave the address. Harold closed his eyes. Stay with me, she said. I'm here. For once, don't argue. He opened his eyes because she sounded young when she said it. The next minutes came in pieces. Megan kneeling in front of him, asking questions she did not wait for him to like. His blood pressure cuff from the bathroom cabinet. The front door open. Men's voices in the hall. Someone checking him with efficient hands, Megan saying the medication names from the bottles, then stopping because several were missing. Harold did not go to the hospital. Not then. The responder spoke with Megan, spoke with him, made a plan that included words he disliked and instructions he could not pretend were suggestions. A call to the doctor. A same-day pharmacy correction. No more skipped doses. No more cutting without asking. After they left, the apartment seemed larger and more damaged. Megan shut the door and stood with her back to it. Harold sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water in front of him. The correct pills lay beside it, arranged by Megan after 2 calls and one long stretch of hold music that neither of them filled with talk. She had paid something over the phone. He had not asked how much. That was its own kind of defeat. The pill organizer was open between them, little plastic doors labeled by day. Megan sat down across from him instead of standing. That helped. He did not know why, but it did. She slid the notebook toward the middle of the table. The torn page rested on top. I can't do this if you lie to me, she said. He looked at the page, not at her. I know. I don't think you do. He nodded once. She waited. Harold picked up the first pill. His hand was steadier now, but not steady enough to hide everything. He put the pill on his tongue, drank water, swallowed. Then the second. Then the third, the one he had left behind, and she had somehow gotten released, paid for, retrieved, fixed. He did not know the word for what daughters did when fathers made ruins and called them choices. Megan watched him take it. She did not say good. She did not say thank you. When he finished, she closed the pill organizer one door at a time. Click, click, click. The sound was small and final. Harold touched the torn notebook page with one finger. I almost called, he said. Megan looked at the scratched-out words. I know, she said. It did not forgive him. It did not fix the rent notice, the pharmacy bill, the money she did not have lying around any more than he did. It did not make the apartment safe or his body reliable, but she stayed seated across from him. The notebook lay open between them, damaged and readable.